Can I do the perhaps misguided thing of bringing in the film Black Panther into this discussion?
Sure.
Right. So you've seen have you seen Black Panther? I assume you have.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this to me is a perfect example because the true revolutionary there is the person that is characterized as the bad guy, right? The revolutionary who wants to, regain the crown in order to liberate all, right, people of color everywhere in the world. And the quote unquote good guy is like the UN, literally, like the film, spoiler alert, ends with this kind of like, I'm going to go to the UN and we're going to like work things out rationally with the rest of the world. And there's going to be this nonprofit that in Oakland that helps alleviate poverty, right? So there's this like totally liberal understanding of how to combat racism, oppression, exploitation, and so forth. It seems to me that. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think that they're trying to argue that method of they're casting the sort of Black Panther's character, I forget his name, as being the Michael Jordan character, Michael B. Jordan.
Right.
He's like Jean-Jacques Dessalines. In that, like, he's grown up under the oppressive system and he understands the need for change, but he's taken it too far. He wants to set up a new empire. Like, I think he says at one point, like, the sun will never set on our empire, which is clearly a reference to the British Empire. What they used to say, the sun never sets on the British Empire because it was a quarter of the globe. And that was literally the case.
By the way, the first line I wrote in one of the essays I wrote back in the day was "The sun never sets on the anti-American empire." I was quite proud of that.
Perfect. Yeah. I think they do make it glib because, I mean, they give the protagonist is this, moderate sort of incrementalist fellow who's the king.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is, by the way, that's very weird to have a super advanced technological society. There's a king. You decide who leads the country by like a fight to the death. That traditionally is not a good way of selecting political leadership.
It seems, just not the best way. That's true. Yeah.
But they don't say that they don't give a sort of like intermediate approach to be like, both of you people are wrong, and what we need to do is take on the imperialists, but not to go overboard with it. So I don't know. I mean, it is a superhero movie.
Yeah, right. Because the assumption is that any attempt to release all people from suffering will inevitably lead to those people wanting to commit their own genocidal acts of empire. That's not necessarily the case. So I mean, you're suggesting that there is kind of a psychological tendency to take revenge, of course. And maybe when we talk about something that is really powerful about MLK and the nonviolent forms of political resistance, maybe that phenomenologically or like the subject formation there when love is the project, perhaps that relationship with power is such that there's less likely to be kind of that just becoming the abuser after you've been abused once you have that position. But like, there's nothing necessary about liberation leading to that. And I don't know, this is a very interesting discussion because that whole, and MLK himself pointed out in his Vietnam speech, right, that, the state loves me when I talk about nonviolence when it's we black protesters being nonviolence. But when I then use that same logic of nonviolence to criticize the war in Vietnam, the state suddenly says, no, nonviolence is weakness. No.
Yeah.
No. It's strength when we're being violent. When the state is violent, that's strength. And if the state were to be nonviolent, that would be weakness. But no. So in other words, there's an asymmetry where the oppressed they should be nonviolent. The oppressors get to legitimate their violence, whether it's through the police, through the soldiers, right? So there is this important logic that I think Fanon is pointing out that needs to be undone, right? Who gets to define what's violence? Very often the state does it, and when they do it, it's okay when the state does it, but everyone that tries to be liberated from their oppression, they need to stay nonviolent, and they're shamed for any otherwise, any behavior that deviates from that nonviolent action, right?